The wound isn't your responsibility, but the healing is. And here's the thing about being called for more, being chosen for more, or just being done with this season of life and this version of you. It's not about shaming old parts of yourself or old versions of yourself or even this version of yourself. It's about the courage to meet this version of yourself and meet that desired or called version of yourself, that life, that calling, whatever it is that you have. And here's the real flex, is being able to meet each moment where you choose the old parts, or you understand that tomorrow is seated in how you meet today. And in a moment where you are triggered, where you're just overwhelmed by it all, or it just all feels like it's too much, and you're awake enough, you're aware enough in that moment where you get to choose. Sometimes it chooses for you and just shit happens and you choose the old you, the old patterns, even when they do not serve you. They might not have served you in the past, but they kept you alive. They allowed you to get here. And sometimes we choose the old, and it's again, it is what it is. And there might be consequences from choosing the old, but it happens. It's the moments where you are conscious, you are awake, you are aware, and you choose the old patterns and the old self over finding the courage, the conviction, and the commitment to who you're becoming, to the version of you that you say that you want, or that you are called to become, or that you have to become in order to save your own life, in order to change your own life, or because who you're being is causing consequences for those that you love and care and are responsible for. Whatever your story is, I want to share this now because this is me walking the journey, keeping a live, living, documented journal of the journey, and I find myself in that moment right now. My name is Chantel Thompson, and I'm a proud Barkindji Yampa woman. I'm a mother of 5, and I am the custodian, the founder, the matriarch of the Warrior Heart Movement, the Barkindji Warrior, and the Kilana Foundation. And these are both grassroots and global movements that I have been called and chosen to weave into the world. And for a long time, they've been in conflict. I've been in conflict, and the last 5 years have been the hardest of my life. And I'm finally on a journey of being able to be with myself and my experiences whilst consciously choosing to and needing to, because life in front of me, having to build and nurture that new self. And it's not about mindset. It's not about motivation. I've done those things, but that's surface level stuff now. It's now identity work. It's nervous system regulation. It's creating, redefining, and raising the baseline of safety, of survival mode, of self-protection. And in this season, my own self-respect and self-trust is going to be the key that unlocks my full power and potential. I know I'm capable. I've done it before. I've got a history. I've got a track record of winning 3 world titles, building a multiple 6-figure business with no business plan, no list, just no marketing, just outreach, just people reaching out to me, and me just being so good at what I do, the opportunities flow. And all while in my 30s and being a mum of 3 and then a mum of 5 over that time. But I lost myself in that. And then in 2023, I made a decision, or life made a decision for me, where who I was being and the life I had, the relationships that I had that I thought would be my forever, were slowly killing me, literally and spiritually. And I found the courage to take the actions I needed to do, but I never could have comprehended the ripple effect of how many people would go silent, who would disappear, or who would outright say you don't belong in our life because of who you're choosing to be. And when I started to speak my truth and be with my own experience, how that was received by the world absolutely broke me, shattered me to the point where I didn't believe I was worthy or allowed or safe enough to be alive, that I thought my children would be better off if I was no longer here. And I acted on those thoughts. It was the ancestors' intervention of saying your time isn't done that allowed me to still be here. And I find myself in one of those moments right now where we're 6 weeks into 2026 and I'm conscious of all the things that I still haven't done, the things that I know are going to set me free, that are going to set me up for success that are foundational, that are conditional steps to having sustainable success, sustainable income and impact and purpose in this next season, while still being a present mum and being well within myself. And I just want to share this moment with you and capture it in real time. I didn't want to get out of bed this morning. I had to fight myself for an hour to get out of bed. I talked to ChatGPT. I sent a message to a friend who's working with me, and I'm supposed to have trained. It's almost 8 o'clock, or it is 8 o'clock. My kids are waiting to get ready for school, and I'm in the garage and supposed to be training, and instead I'm here recording this because this is as much a journal entry for me as it is documenting it. So if you would like to see the full video of this, come and join my inner circle over on school, or send me an expression of interest to join the Warrior Heart Inner Circle, where this full video will be posted, because I'm going to be sharing glimpses of the journey of the dreaming-led sovereignty and embodied becoming of the Warrior Heart Rising and of Chantel Thompson in this season in that community. I'll be sharing glimpses on my YouTube, even smaller glimpses on my other social media platform to guide people to my YouTube, and then my YouTube to my inner circle, where I really want to create a living diary of my becoming, of my movement, my mandate, and my millions, whilst simply existing as myself in the world, nothing less or nothing more, and being the seed and the source of my life, my love, my leadership, and my legacy. And that being a mother and being an Indigenous woman are the seed and the source and the governance of how I move through the world, how I create, how I speak, how I serve. And that being well and resourced as the woman, and the work being well and resourced, is a governing decision, is foundational to the work being possible. Being well isn't a luxury or an afterthought, it's a responsibility. So what I will share to this point is that I'm conscious and I'm awake, and I'm meeting myself here and needing to own my shit, but living the very real consequences of being in survival mode, of being in crisis and chaos. And yes, I was coming through domestic violence. Yes, I was coming through suicidal ideation. And timing is its own thing, and I did the best I could with what I had and all those things. This isn't about shaming that previous version of me or even this version of me. It's about the reality that right now I'm living the very real consequences and impacts of not being able to show up fully in those seasons, of not having full capability and capacity to do what I needed to do to be well and grounded, whilst also being unwell in my finances, in my business, in my health. And those impacts right now is that I'm in high levels, multiple 6 figures of debt. I had to shut down a whole business space that I spent 5 years building. The dreaming has changed. It is still there, but the grief of that journey and that chapter closing, I have literally cents in my bank account. I had 20 kilometers of fuel in the car, and I went to the petrol station to fill up my car, thinking that I just activated Afterpay because I'd resisted up to this point. And I filled up the car, but I didn't check if the Afterpay worked at this location. And then I had to call my stepmom and ask for money again. I had to ask for money while I was away to buy food. Now having to ask for money to pay for fuel, and then last night I had to go to my dad's to ask for help with food. Not being able to sit down and do simple, straightforward tasks because of my ADHD and neurodivergent and not being very good at logistics or operationalizing the reality of building an event tour. I'm meant to be going to Queensland on Saturday to launch a 10 days of weaving the warrior heart into experiences. And I know I can't do it. And this is the moment that I'm meeting, is not from paralysis, not from perfectionism, but from integrity and responsibility of going, I'm not delivering those experiences from scarcity and urgency of needing income now. It wouldn't be in alignment. And a commitment that I made to myself, a governing decision that I made to myself at the start of 2026, was that I was only going to move at the pace of peace and trust. If I had to force something, if I'm winging something, if it doesn't feel aligned to the bigger calling, but also if that decision doesn't fund itself, if me having to leave home for an event or delivery doesn't fund itself or doesn't lead to a return on investment of income, impact, influence, or opportunity within the first 90 days, then it has to be a no, because I'm not even sustainable here at home. So going on the road doesn't make any sense. But also, more importantly, I've realized that within myself and my own experience in this season, but also being a single mum, I don't want to be on the road all the time generating income and impact and influence in the world at the cost of my children and my time with them, because my older children are in year 11, they're 16, and they are going to be grown and out in the world soon. I want to be intentional with how I spend that time with them. I want to respect that time with them in this season, in saying that I'm safe and enough to be the mother that I want to be present, and to build the impact I want to see in the world. And I get to be well along the way, but I also want to be conscious of the time and how I do that journey. And now seeing that 80% of my delivery and my business to be virtual and online, to create time and location freedom, and then moving towards financial freedom and sovereignty. And right now, meeting myself in this moment in old patterns of going, the old version of me just used to wing it, would do things last minute, and is used to crisis and chaos, and just going, hey, let's go and compete at a world championships with 2 weeks of training, or let's launch a whole tour on 2 days' notice. And 1 tank of fuel and no accommodation. And the dopamine effect, or the confirmation effect of going, people bought tickets last minute. I was able to find accommodation along the way. Resources found me, and going, hey, I've got success when I do this. And then when success starts to happen and the visibility starts to happen, the fear of my own success means that I shut down. I hide. And I'm meeting that moment. I'm meeting those patterns and that self now who goes, hold on, people are starting to say yes. People are starting to offer opportunities and support. The fact that I want to build a reality TV series on YouTube about my journey while I'm walking this journey of building my movement, my mandate, and my millions, of creating a global movement through Kililana as the legacy, the warrior heart being the movement, and my story being the vehicle, being the seed of my journey and my business. Wanting to find patrons or people who can see the power of the vision, the power of the woman, and want to invest and walk with that as patrons or angel investors, and going, yep, this is what I want to do. I want to write my book. I want to document my story, and I want to do so. And I'm called to work towards being a black belt world champion, which requires training and commitment and resources. I can't eat and train the way of an athlete. I can't recover the way of an athlete because I don't have the resources. This is literally my training arena. These are my mats in my garage, and I don't have any training partners yet. Because where I live in Mildura, I don't have a team to train with. I don't have training partners. I don't have a gym to train at. So I'm doing this journey from here. And this few days, I've been working with someone who's helping me build my website, my capability statement. I've been preparing to go on tour to Queensland, which I've known about since January, that I knew this was going to happen. And I've got someone who's paid for my flights. And then I meet this moment where I had to go and ask for food. I had to ask for help with fuel. My only stable income right now is Centrelink, and that's a couple of grand a month. My rent is $650 a week. I'm behind on rent. My bills are behind. My phone is a few days away from being disconnected because the bill's due. And in the past, when I would have met these moments, I would have gone into spiral. I would have winged it and gone, yep, we'll just get some income to cover this moment. Got some success, and then I would have disappeared. I would have shut down. I would have gone and taken the kids to bed. I would have performed a mast and got the kids up, taken them to school, and then gone home and gone back to bed. Eaten Doritos and just binge out on BDSM smut novels, or cancelled the whole trip. And at the same time, I'm here and instead telling this story here. And this morning I had to fight with myself to get out of bed. I had to fight with myself. And you know what got me out of bed? Was hearing my daughter get up and move and going, this isn't just about you. This is about your children and the home that they deserve. Having a safe, regulated mum who can be present with them while still showing up for her responsibilities and the vision that she holds, and being well in all of that. So the real flex the real world championship battles. Winning world titles is going to be playtime and therapy, because this is the real fight. This is the real arena, is being able to meet myself in the moments where I'm conscious and awake, and moving from commitment and courage and conviction to the tomorrow and the calling that I have. I already know it's all possible for me because I've been here before. And yet this time I don't want to wing my way to world titles. I don't want to just take for granted that I can make money and that people want to hear my story, that I have a story worth telling. I want to build an ecosystem, a sovereign ecosystem around the dreaming, around the work, an ecosystem that is regenerative, that when I go out to speak or share my story or run a workshop, that generates its own ripple effect, its own ecosystem of income, impact, and influence. That when I leave my children and choose to take an opportunity, that opportunity amplifies impact. It resources itself. This is now integrity. This is now sovereignty in creating legacy and creating a sovereign ecosystem that resources itself. And wanting to be well and regulated, moving from not making excuses because I have trauma, not making excuses or justifications because I'm newly accepting that I'm ADHD and neurodivergent and I have complex PTSD, as told to me by a doctor that I didn't recognize. That some of my high functioning forms of success that I have been rewarded with because of society are actually harming me. That I haven't showered in 2 days because I didn't believe I was worthy of being clean. So this is the moment where I met myself and I chose to meet myself here and go, I'm not ready to make the Queensland experiences happen because I wouldn't be serving from integrity. I wouldn't be serving and meeting those women and those rooms as the regulated version of myself. I would have been there from scarcity and urgency, and that's not in integrity. That's not moving at the pace of peace and trust, but it's also not holding responsibility for who I'm being when I step into those rooms. And I haven't created the ecosystem, the system and the structure to guide the flow of this opportunity, not the end outcome, but the woman who's arriving at this opportunity and the people who want to help me. So instead, this morning, I chose to regulate my breathing. I chose to come and document this moment. I'm not shutting down, I'm not spiraling, and instead I'm meeting it from responsibility and breathing. So the Warrior Heart Queensland experience is now happening in May. The 2 weeks that I would have been away, I'm going to use that time to get therapy, to work with the women who are helping me build in the background to say, hey, how do we get this across the line? The website, the capability statement, the marketing and the logistics for the events that are happening, understanding the numbers that I need to generate or the investment I need to find to make the build possible so that the build can fund itself. And that is by building a monetized YouTube channel. It is by building a inner circle membership of women who are on their own journeys, but also want to see someone like me succeed and win because they know the global impact that they can have. They can see the vision, and me having the courage to say, don't just invest in the vision, invest in the woman who is creating the vision, who is the birthplace of the vision, and putting myself out there like that and inviting people to contribute and walk that with me. So in this season, in meeting myself in this moment and having the courage to disrupt the pattern, to regulate my identity and to go, we're moving from our warrior heart identity, not our survival, crisis and chaos identity. We are creating internal safety where it is safe to be visible. We are allowed to belong and matter in our own experience, that being well and resourced is a governing decision. It is a requirement before we move. We are building an ecosystem, not just services, not just a business, but a sovereign ecosystem that is culturally grounded, ancestrally guided, and dreaming led. We are redefining the baselines and elevating the baselines of being okay, receiving more than enough, being okay, being visible, being okay, being safe, allowed and enough to simply exist as myself and serving from my story, my strengths and my gifts, that my journey is the offering. My journey is the business. My story and experiences are the ripple effect. So if you want to know more or see more, come and join the Warrior Heart community, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you want to see the second part of this conversation where I really get real and vulnerable to what I'm experiencing and what I'm going to do next, to be able to meet this moment and choose safety, to choose survival, to choose redefining those things on the conditions of me being well, and what I do next to support the woman being the seed and the source of her movement, her millions, and her mandate in this Warrior Heart Rising season. Send me a DM on Warrior Heart and let's see if we are in alignment and connection on the Warrior Heart Inner Circle, which is invitation only for women who are on the journey, women who are walking their journey to being themselves, and they're not willing to settle. They're no longer willing to role model or accept burnout, self-abandonment, and survival mode as a way of life, as a way of love, life, leadership, and legacy. And instead, we're choosing to do things differently, that being well is a condition, is a governing decision, is a responsibility, not an afterthought, not a luxury. Big love you, mob. This is Chantal Thompson in her Warrior Heart Rising season.